A lot of things went wrong. There's a list there. Let's work our way through it here at 617-779-7937. What went wrong? How do they fix it? Things we'll discuss all day long. What was the biggest factor in the loss?
So, to me, and not to be I think this is on Jacoby Brissett. I think the loss comes down to him. I know there were some great moments in that first half. We're sort of highlighting, like, he and Hunter Henry were in lockstep, and he marches all the way down the field, throws the touchdown pass to Polk. Like, that was really good. And you're like, oh, my God, this is great. Very efficient at that point in the game. I think he only had a couple of incomplete passes, and they were moving the ball. After that, the thing fell off a cliff. And where I go to it, I think if you want to bring it down to one play, for me, it was fourth quarter, up by 3, ball on the Seattle 21-yard line, and he takes a sack. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea of Jacoby Brissett being in and Drake May not being in is because you would assume the rookie takes the sack there. The rookie is not experienced and pushes you further out of field goal range.
The veteran should know what to do. The
veteran should know what to do.
Understand the game situation, understand what Seattle's trying to do. That's why he's out there. He's a borderline 10-year vet. That's why he's starting these games.
Do you remember, and the same thing came up, remember during the COVID year, Cam Newton was out one game, I think because of COVID, and Brian Hoyer was in. And we're like, why not see Stidham? Why not play Stidham? And they're like, no, Hoyer's the veteran. He knows what he's doing. He had the worst clock management you were ever going to see. And you're like, well, wait a minute. The whole reason this guy is in is because he's supposed to be smart and he's not supposed to make those mistakes. So to me, Jacoby Brissett, that was a disaster. That ended up being the game because you're like, Keefe, the kick was blocked. So Joey Sly has been making all these kicks all year, but they've all been like 20, 30-yard field goals. Mm-hmm. This is the first time they've extended it out. So the 9-yard sack goes from a 39-yard attempt to a 48-yard attempt. And normally, not to get into the kicking weeds here, but normally some of these guys, the further it's out, maybe you're going to kick it a little bit lower, right? You're trying to kick it further,
sure.
So you're not going to, pop it way up in the air, and that sort of led to the block. I feel way more confident in him drilling a 39-yard field goal than a 48-yard field goal. At that point, you're up 6. So, yes, a touchdown would still beat you, but it was the field goal that Seattle went down the field and got to tie the game and force overtime. So if you're up 6 with under 4 minutes to go, I know they gave up some plays, but I trust the defense there. I think you win the game if you kick a field goal instead of taking the sack.
So I put it more on the coaching than I do on Brissett. And I get that situation there, although I was listening to Gerard Mayo today on the Greg Hill Show. If you missed any of it, YouTube, subscribe to WEEI or the Odyssey app. You can go back and seek that out. I thought he gave a pretty lame answer. Honestly, he was asked about why did you even drop back and throw? Like, why are you even throwing in that situation? You're already in field goal range. Why not run it, keep running clock, which I guess ran anyway on the sack, but you risk.
Not on purpose.
You risk an incompletion, though, and leaving Seattle with a bunch of time.
Yep.
And he basically said, well, it's a gut decision. Gut decision is what I felt like doing at the time. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
You've now rewatched the tape.
Gut decision. There you
I thought that was a lame answer. So if you want to put that situation on Brissett, it was a horrible sack that he took. No problem with that. Or no problem with criticizing him for that. Big problem with Brissett.
Yeah.
The coaching, though, to me was the issue. I think Brissett honestly made some plays that I don't think were there, running around, extending plays with his feet. And I'd like to see Drake May. I think Drake May could do a lot of what Jacoby Brissett's doing. But I think he kept a few plays alive and made plays where it was nothing. He turned them into something.
I mean, he had that one. I don't know how he didn't take a safety. And he just eluded the rush.
Ironically, it's the one drop Henry had all game. On the sideline where he stepped away, almost a safety. He stepped out of it and nearly made a play. So, look, Jacoby Brissett is Jacoby Brissett. Like, you know what he is. You know what the limitations are at this point in his career. So I have a hard time getting on him too much. The situational stuff is fair. But the game plan, like, how do you not win that game after that Gibson 45-yard run? Part of it is because Brissett takes a sack. You have to lean on them there. I thought the game management was very poor. They burned through all the timeouts.
Yeah, timeouts was huge. You didn't have that. Now, also, there's two things there, right? So the timeouts, you don't have them when the game's tied, and you don't have a lot of time left. But has there ever been a 2-minute offense in the NFL that is less intimidating than this one? Like, that was what I was thinking. Like, as you're watching it, and maybe Mac Jones, okay, fine. Maybe you don't have to go back that far. But just we've all watched a lot of football, and when you see a team tie game or down 3 or whatever, and they go shotgun, kind of hurry up, like, let's get going. Nothing there. There was no fear. Like, if you're Seattle, you're like, they're not going to do anything.
No.
They can't move the ball. The receivers can't get open. The quarterback doesn't have a lot of time to throw. If he does, he's only going to throw it 7 yards down the field anyway. They can run the ball. They've established that. Ramondre's good. Antonio Gibson had a good game. They can't throw it.
No.
And it's not just Brissett. Like, I'm not piling on Brissett for that, but it's the whole operation. They can't throw.
The scheme. They threw for 32 yards in the second half in overtime.
I know,
they had 3 catches all day from their wide receivers. That's that's coaching. That's not just Brissett. That's coaching.
Is Pop Douglas on the team?
I would think not.
I've heard about this guy. I'd love to see him.
I would think he's not. I know he is, but you wouldn't know it. So 3 catches for 19 yards from their receivers all day long.
One was a tug.
They burned their touchdowns early, timeouts rather, in the second half. You wanted those at the end of the game. They would have been very useful at the end of regulation. You didn't have them because you called one on the opening drive when you were on defense, the other on a touchdown drive where, in fairness, you ended up scoring. It was the third down play. Maybe that was a key timeout, but you still burned through them, and you didn't have them at the end of the game. The clock management at the end of the first half.
Oh, real bad.
Gave Seattle a field goal. It was horrible. You didn't burn any clock. JaMychal Hasty's out there in the 2-minute offense. I forgot he was even on the team.
They got 2 yards on their last drive of the first half.
So they ran with Hasty on first down.
Yep.
Then they threw incomplete. You left Seattle with 3 timeouts. They marched down and get a field goal. It's a huge field goal in the game. They're dropping back to throw on that third down where Brissett takes a sack. They don't go for it on fourth down and overtime. What'd you think of that?
Oh, I didn't like that.
Fourth and 1 at your own 39.
So I was going to say, the offense does blow, but the defense wasn't lights out. You know, I guess we got to give credit to Geno Smith. Geno Smith, we talked about on Friday. We're like, is he a top half of the league quarterback? And he may still not be, but he's playing really well right now. He had 2 receivers with double-digit catches. Jackson Smith and Jigba had like a great game. Metcalf, now there's a broken coverage there. Another thing we have to mention, that was a big part of the game.
Huge.
Because, you know, this defense, you know, don't give them any favors. Don't allow a wide open DK Metcalf streaking down the field for a score. But no, I don't like that. So basically you're saying, like, if we can't get a yard here, like, the game's going to be over anyway. Like, at that point, all they need is a field goal. We've seen a few times when they've done that. You mentioned end of the first half, they needed it. Mm-hmm. When they were down 3 to force overtime, they did it. So the defense wasn't this, like, unstoppable force. So I didn't like that. No, I thought that was kind of a coward's move.
It was a cowardly move. You know, it's 4th and 1 at your own 39. And so I guess you don't want to hand Seattle the game, but you effectively did. That blown coverage was terrible. I don't know if I put that on coaching. Kyle Duggar kind of put it on himself after the game. Christian Gonzalez actually did pretty well on DK Metcalf, aside from that blown coverage.
Yeah, right.
Which isn't, coverage per se. He's not matched up. He tried to pass him off to Duggar. Duggar wasn't back.
It's bad miscommunication.
It was. Yeah. But so I'm surprised at another thing that I would have an issue with the coaching staff on. I don't put that play necessarily on the coaching staff. That felt like on-field communication. But I do have an issue with them never adjusting. Like, you know what Seattle did? Seattle adjusted. Hunter Henry was killing them in the first half. He basically did nothing in the second half. And he was the only threat in the passing game. Seattle said, we're going to take him away. He's Hunter Henry. Like, he's making plays on us, but he's not. And maybe this is a bad example because he did nothing yesterday. Travis Kelce or Gronk in his prime or someone like that.
I get you.
It's Hunter Henry. If we want to take him away, we should be able to take him away. And then what do they have? The Patriots had nothing. They had nothing if they couldn't throw it to Hunter Henry. I feel like the Patriots never adjusted. I feel like they didn't adjust to take away Smith and Jigba, who just had easy catches over the middle of the field.
Stop catches.
All day long. I thought they did a decent job on Metcalf. I did not expect Metcalf to have as big of a game as he did. But most of it came on a broken play.
Right.
I just never felt like that defense adjusted. They just kept doing what their plan was all day long, and Geno Smith picked them apart. I felt like they never adjusted. That's also on the coaching staff. So I know you put it on Brissett yesterday, and I think that's fair. But Jacoby Brissett, to me, is what Jacoby Brissett is. The coaching staff, I don't feel like, is trying to scheme things up, or at least not being successful at scheming things up. As much as I praised them last week, I had an issue with them yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, the magic number we thought was you score 17 points, you should win.
Yep.
And it took overtime, but Seattle got to 23. So I'm still harping on the one specific play from Brissett. Taking the sack there, butterfly effect. Would Joey Slive made a 39-yard field goal compared to a 48-yarder that got tipped? Maybe. I think, if you look at it, the offense, which goes in with a very low bar, 20 points on the board, this defense, you'd think they're going to win more games than not if they allow that many points. But you're right, they weren't great. But everybody does have a hand in the blame, right? Like, I'm singling out Brissett, but I'm with you on the coaching thing and just some of the overall decisions. They did it when Ramondre scored his touchdown and they kind of ran it out of the Wildcat. They stuck with it. Like, they went, Ramondre was getting stuffed or he's picking up a couple yards here and there. Remember, then he picked up the first down.
Yep.
And they didn't get cute. And they're like, we're just going to run it. And it worked. and you feel like, I don't know why that changed in overtime, because the 3rd and 1 call was Ramondre and he got stuffed. Is Ramondre going to get stuffed 2 times in a row? Like, the way he's played this season, he's broken 1 million tackles.
Yeah.
Even if you only needed a yard there, maybe even run the Wildcat again or whatever, like direct snap to Ramondre. That was frustrating because, as texters are pointing out too, the defense wasn't shutting them down all day. So at that point, you punt the ball away. All they needed is a field goal, and that's what they did. They marched right down the field and got the field goal, and the game was over.
After that Antonio Gibson 45-yard run,
yeah,
they had, and I don't know if you care about these odds, they had an 85% chance of winning the game at that point, and you felt it. Like, when you were watching the game, you're like, they're good. Mm-hmm. They're going to score. They're going to attack this up. Maybe they punch in a touchdown. Maybe Seattle doesn't even get the ball back. And you felt that watching the game live. So I would underscore what you said earlier. That's not just a game they could have won. That's not just a game I picked them to win going in.
Yeah.
That's a game they should have won.
Oh, yeah, 4th quarter lead. This isn't just like, oh, I like the matchup on paper. Like, no, they were winning the game.
And somehow Seattle took that game, or somehow the Patriots let them take that game.